Hello folks, Dick Fairburn here. Only a week or so ago that Charlie Kirk was assassinated in Utah, and as I expected, the internet has gone crazy with conspiracy theories and what I think are some really preposterous ideas about what happened. These incorrect so-called facts being spread about this assassination are incredible. I'm going to post links down below to the two best videos that I've seen that help explain what was going on here. One was from Paramount Tactical. They were one of the first I saw that promoted the idea of hard plate body armor being worn and contributing to what happened to the wounds that were created. And a guy by the name of Matt Kester, who has done really good work about showing how to disassemble the rifle, how to conceal it in his clothes. Looks very much like the video of the guy as he ingressed into the shooting point. I'll leave links below. I really ought to go look at those videos. I'm not going to try to recreate what they did. But they really, I think, point to what happened that terrible day last week in Utah. Now there's another video out there by the YouTube channel is called Outside the Overton. This is the #1 video out there promoting a shot from Charlie's right rear that he seems to think would have impacted below his ear, making that neck wound we saw an exit, not an entrance. He's a former Marine sniper. He comes across fairly well. I've got a bachelor's degree in law enforcement administration. I did my minor in photography, so I started in the era of 4x5 size print cameras all the way up to modern digital. And I know quite a bit about photography, both still and video. What he says in the video clips he shows, what he draws from those, is absolutely impossible. It could not be showing what he says they show. Not saying he's a bad guy, I just don't think he understands how modern digital video works. Now Gary at Paramount Tactical does an outstanding job of debunking Overton's shot from the right rear theory. And I'll touch on a couple of those points as I go along. Many people who are critical, they decry the lack of photos of the evidence rifle. A lot of people point out things that are wrong about the photo of the Mauser rifle with a scope that's in a cardboard box. That is not the weapon that was used in the murder. It is an image posted by the New York Times. Most of those people know nothing about guns. I'm sure they called someone, said, hey, we heard it's a Mauser with a scope. Someone found them a stock photo. They've also decried the fact that the autopsy results have not been released, which could answer so many of the questions we have. They're not going to be released. The rifle and photographs of the rifle, the autopsy reports, these are evidence. Now, in many active shooter situations, we don't have a suspect to prosecute because they self-inflict at the end of the incident. This young man didn't. So we have someone who needs to go to trial. Now, misinformation, conspiracy theories are the norm in incidents like this, especially nowadays with the internet. Since there is a suspect to be prosecuted, much of that evidence cannot be released now. It will be released in the course of these court proceedings. Stick with me. I'm going to try to answer some of the many questions you folks have put forward in the comments on my first video. And to those of you out there who have already made up your mind, I will not try to confuse you too much with too many facts. I want to announce to you that both versions of my book, Building a Better Gunfighter, are available now on Amazon.com. There's a Kindle book version of this for $9.95. There's the paperback copy for $19.95. Of course, sales tax is going to be added to both of those. Just search for Building a Better Gunfighter. Now, as I said, the #1 conspiracy theory out there right now is that the shot didn't come from Charlie's front, where the young man was seen on the roof with the rifle. But instead, they claim a bullet came from Charlie's right rear, impacting an entrance wound. Should be seen below his ear somewhere, downwards through the neck, and that hole we saw, that wound, according to them, is an exit wound, not an entrance wound. They're wrong. It is not what an exit wound would look like. The Paramount tactical video that I linked to shows a pork shoulder being shot by various handguns and a 5.56 rifle. The bullet damage on that pork shoulder shows very accurately what exit wounds look like. They are much larger than the entrance wound, which is often just a tiny hole. And in those exits, you will see biological debris being ejected from the exit wounds. That was not seen on the wound on Charlie Kirk's neck. Now, while the entrance wounds in the pork shooting are very, very small, they are visible. There is a dark smudge there. And if there were one on Charlie's neck, even despite the poor quality of the video that we're working with, it would be evident. There is no entry wound on any of the videos that I've seen on Charlie's neck below his right ear. The Overton video also shows a video image of what he claims is a bullet coming towards Charlie from the right rear. Now, the Paramount tactical video does a very good job of illustrating how even a low velocity pistol bullet would be a streak, not a dot. At the Trump assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania, there is a still photo by a news photographer showing a bullet traveling by Trump's head. It is a white streak approximately that long. Now, that's a still digital camera, which can work at shutter speeds of 4,000 to 8,000th of a second. Most of the digital video we see, especially those coming from cell cameras, they have a frame rate of either 30 or 60 feet per second. Some can be set up to 120 feet per second. And typically the actual shutter speed, digital doesn't work quite that way, the way old film movie cameras did. But the effective shutter speed of those snaps, those frames, is generally double the frame rate or a little faster. So the effective shutter speed in those would be about 250 to 1/300th of a second, not 8,000th of a second as we can get from a good digital camera like the one I'm filming on right now. So therefore, you cannot get a single image of a bullet. You don't get a still image of a bullet in flight until you're working with frame rates of probably 25,000 frames per second or higher. What you get instead is a streak, not a dot. So if you see a dot in that cell camera image, it cannot possibly be a bullet in flight. The Overton video also claims to show a possible muzzle flash high up on Charlie's right side, kind of behind him. And even he says it may not be a muzzle flash. It looks to be one small white dot on one frame in the video. And you got to think about seeing things like muzzle flashes. Even if it has a high shutter speed effective rate of 300th of a second, there's a lot of gap in between those 300th of a second frames. So the videos we see look smooth only because they run fairly fast. They are actually a series of still images with a fair amount of time in between them that we don't see. Plus, any of these video images, while they may look sharp on the phone they were taken on, they've been emailed, they've been texted, they've been sent to X, they've been compressed, digitally compressed and uncompressed, maybe several times. And so the resolution of them just goes down and down and down. So it is almost impossible to catch a muzzle flash on a cell cam video. The white dot appears to me like it's behind a window on a building face there. So how could a shot have been fired from that window without some evidence of glass being broken? I'm sorry, it just doesn't make sense. Now, Gary at Paramount Tactical was one of the first I saw to promote the idea of Charlie wearing a rifle-resistant armor plate under his t-shirt. Here's a clip from that Paramount video where he is showing that very thin titanium-type plate, executive-type rifle plate that is worn by people who don't want the plate to be evident. Now, my first thought was when I looked through these videos, I thought no armor, because you can see Charlie's nipples showing through his t-shirt. Look at that plate, and then look at Gary holding it against his chest. He's a big guy, but so was Charlie Kirk. The plate only comes to about here, so nipples are evident. That plate could have been there with the nipples still showing. So it is very possible that there was a hard plate under Charlie Kirk's shirt. Now, I haven't watched all of his videos, and the guy at Paramount Tactical who first thought armor was involved now seems to be backing off and thinking that there was no armor plate. I'm not sure why his opinion has changed. But sources from Turning Point, while not definitive, they kind of suggest otherwise. They suggest that Charlie always wore body armor, that his wife insisted on it. Now, there's another important video clip, I think, and this shows the left side of Charlie's t-shirt being pushed up like this, and it goes to exactly where that neck wound appeared. If he did have that plate on, he had a t-shirt over it, the bullet's going to go through the t-shirt, impact probably at the upper edge of that plate. And if you look at that plate, it's not flat. One guy took me to task telling me about angles of bullets falling off plates they don't penetrate and stuff like that. And he's probably right on flat plates like steel targets that we shoot at. But that titanium body armor is contoured to blend into your body as much as possible so that it doesn't print through your shirts. That top is angled in. If a bullet impacted there, a large fragment would have stayed under that t-shirt and drug it up to there before it penetrated that shirt and then penetrated Charlie's neck. And you see a dark smudge on that t-shirt. To me, that is very real evidence of something flying up to make that wound. That effect is completely consistent with a large bullet fragment that could have deflected up from the plate and made that neck wound. Now, the neck wound is much larger than it would have been if it were an entrance wound from a direct bullet impact. As I've said before, and if you watch the Paramount Tactical, you're going to see that those bullet wounds going through the skin of that pig are much smaller than the actual diameter of the bullet itself. They're really just pinholes. So to have a neck wound that looked like almost quarter size, that's not a direct bullet impact. But it is consistent with a large, flattened bullet fragment deflecting from a plate. And that is commonly what happens when rifle bullets do not penetrate a metal plate. They blow into fragments, sometimes very fine. Depending on the angle, if it's not a direct hit on a flat plate, if it's more like this, then you can get the ricochet of a very substantial portion of that bullet going in a certain direction. I think that's some of the most strong evidence there is. Now, conspiracy theorists claim that an entrance wound could not produce the gush of blood we see leaving that neck wound as the video continues. Folks, if this is a large bullet fragment, it is impacting essentially on the carotid artery, major vein area in that side of the neck. It's gonna gush like crazy. Your body goes into absolute overdrive, your blood pressure spikes high. There's going to be a lot of blood flow out of that wound. Let's shift over to the shooter and how he got the rifle both in and out from the rooftop, if indeed he was the actual shooter. So, is it possible the rifle was disassembled and put into the shooter's pants in order to infiltrate to the shooting point? We see him limping in that shot of dark clothing and long pants as he works his way towards the building he fired from. There are some videos out there by a man named Matt Kester, and I linked to them below as well. he shows very plainly how the barreled action with the scope either still affixed or removed could have been carried to the scene within the shooter's clothes. And I'm going to show you a little bit of this video here.
Carrying the stock in the front. If you can see down here, the jeans are a little bit baggier, but if you pull them back, you remember that image of the gigantic cell phone sitting right here in the thigh? That's your stock. That explains why the leg motion cannot come forward, because it's completely locked in. And if you see, I'll put the video or the image up on the screen and the photo, you can start to see an outline of the stock, okay? This has solved the riddle that has been bugging me the whole time about the bulk of the stock. Essentially, I believe now with 90-something% certainty that the stock was carried this way and the barrel was carried on the side. Now, whether or not the scope came off or not, that's an item for debate, and we can talk about the ramifications of that later. But I think with certainty, or you can't be certain about anything, but I think as close as we can be to certain, this is how this was carried.
Then Matt demonstrates the short amount of time that would be necessary to reassemble the rifle on the roof with a simple screwdriver. You got to remember, a screwdriver was found on the roof at the alleged firing point, and the suspect's DNA was found on that screwdriver.
Up, especially in the rocks on a roof, I definitely want something to lay on. So I've just wrapped up all of the things that are in the official narrative in this towel. We're back on the roof. We've gotten to our sniper hidey hole, and we now have all of the things here in front of me that are in existence in the official narrative. We have the rifle itself and all its components: stock, bolt, magazine well, follower, trigger guard assembly, rifle barrel and Mauser receiver, the screwdriver, 4 rounds of ammunition, a backpack, and a towel. I pulled this out. I couldn't bend down in this position with these pieces in my person, so they had to have come out, set down. He produced the towel. We have everything here. Okay, I'm going to assemble this Mauser into, back into position to be ready to fire. And I'm going to show how quickly and easy this is done, because a lot of you didn't see the first video. So, here goes. Rifle is back to the buttstock. Bolt going in. Okay, I have a completed rifle. Now I'm going to load it. Now, screwdriver. It's on the ground. The backpack also becomes a tool to be employed in the use of this shot. It now gives us a rest.
Finally, Matt Kester shows how the reassembled rifle could then have been disguised inside of a towel to exfiltrate from the shooting point. And we see him dropping off that building. The video is very fuzzy. It appears to be a super wide angle video shot. Some people say, well, how did that camera track him across his exit path? I don't think it did. As I look at it more and more, I think it's just a super wide angle, and what you're seeing are zoom-ins. They're cropped areas of that video to show you various points as he drops off the building and then exits to the right. That explains the really super low resolution that we have to deal with. It does appear that he dropped something to the ground, picked it up, and you can kind of see a towel flapping as he leaves.
This towel, and I'm going to make as close as I can to how it looked when it came off that roof. It's going to be like this. I'm going to keep it wrapped up as much as I can. All right, so I'm going to pick the rifle up off the ground like he would have and proceed to run about 25-30 steps that way. I'm going to keep stepping back until I can do get it right, or somebody calls the police on me. All right, ready? You pick it up. to himself.
In his text, which was released in the court filing documents to his partner, he tells about the rifle being wrapped in a towel. And he talks about his attempts to go back and recover that evidence so the police did not get it. The stuff fits. So, to me, the bullet from the right rear theory has no solid evidence to back it up. No viable image of a bullet in flight. No viable image of a muzzle flash. No indication whatsoever of an entrance wound on Charlie's right side of his neck. We do not know for certain if Charlie was wearing plate armor. But a deflected chest shot from a plate with a large fragment penetrating upward through Charlie's neck makes the most sense of any theory that I've seen. Now, to those of you insisting on wild, speculative conspiracy theories, consider Occam's razor. And when I paraphrase it like this, the simplest explanation is usually the correct one. But some people just cannot accept a simple explanation. They always have to assume lies, deceptions. They refuse to believe anything a government agency puts out. They assume the government always lies about everything. I'm not saying they don't lie from time to time, but I think you're giving them more credit than they deserve. To those of you insisting, to a degree that really surprises me, that only the right side of the U.S. political spectrum is using hate speech. You insist that none of this violence comes from the left or from the hate that they spread. Well, folks, you're getting the majority of your news from the internet, from one-sided, politically motivated sources. Now, of course, that's what you say Fox News is, and I don't think Fox News is 100% accurate by any means either. But they are willing to not be focused in by leftist hate. Or mostly, I don't think they focus in on right-wing hate either. They try to go down the middle as much as they can. They lean right, I give you. Folks, break your tunnel vision. See the reality that is around you. We on the right side of the political spectrum, we don't hate you. We may not agree with your beliefs, and we may not agree with the way you live, but we don't hate you, and we don't try to harm you, despite what you are constantly told. There is also a limit to how much hate speech we're going to be willing to tolerate. Some of that hate speech surrounding Charlie's murder has resulted in many people being fired and canceled, including some talk shows at night. Stop and think, ladies and gentlemen. Now, while the right may be upset by what they've said, we are not the one firing them. We are not the one canceling them. If they're being fired from liberal universities, if they're being fired from liberal media sources, they're being fired by people on the left side of the spectrum. Sensible people on the left who are rational enough to realize that tolerance for their hate speech is running out. Ladies and gentlemen, these are dark days in our country's history, and I fear things are going to get worse before they get better. We all need to take a deep breath. Let this investigation and prosecution run its course. We need to support Charlie's family, and we need to tamp down the hate and the division in our country. Let's all take a breath before this goes a very, very bad direction. Folks, if these videos are useful to you, I ask you to subscribe. Give me a thumbs up, a like, leave a comment. I've been accused of deleting comments from that first video. I have never deleted any comment from any video I have ever posted. Now, I answered a rather nasty comment that posted very early on my first video, and it's gone. I didn't take it down. I don't know if YouTube took it down, but they must have. Okay, I've also heard that the comments get ghosted, and I'm not even sure what they mean by being ghosted. I do not delete comments. I welcome open comments. If you think I'm full of crap, then by all means, you please say so. I got broad shoulders, and I can take anything you can throw at me. So Post your comments. Tell me what you think. Spread your hate if that somehow makes you feel better. But what you do when you do that is not making things better. Thanks for watching, ladies and gentlemen. Y'all be safe out there. Okay, we got them both here now. You ready? Bud got one. Ginger got one. Oh, she missed it. She usually gets them, doesn't she, Bud? Okay, girl, last one. You ready? You ready? Yeah! That's all there is till next time.